We got a call, I guess, during the 9 o'clock break that there was a cow loose on, is it Eagle School Road, Dylan? Is that where it was? I guess Steve Catlett said, I just got a text from Steve, who was just in the last segment with us. I'll just kind of read it verbatim. It says, I saw the cow, Rob, as you pull out onto the main road. The cow's up to the right, and fortunately for me, I was turning left. So you don't want to run into a cow.
You don't want a smash burger.
No, yeah, well, that would be one way of getting some free meat, I guess. Yeah.
Well, actually not, because when you hit an animal, deer, cow, it ruptures so many blood vessels, the meat's not very good.
Well, I don't know about that, because my wife hit a deer years ago on her way home from work. It hit her. It tried to jump over top of her vehicle, and it landed on the roof. Fortunately, she wasn't injured. The car was totaled, but the deer was dead, and a Montgomery County police officer, she was working in Montgomery County at the time, coming up on 270 and some side roads. The police officer who was on the scene was there while two dudes on a John Deere tractor came down their long driveway and asked if they could take the deer. And the officer looked at my wife and he said, technically it's yours. And she said, they can have it. So I don't know. It seemed like they were willing to take that deer and do something with it, Bill.
It may be, but I've always heard that roadkill is not particularly edible because of the hemorrhaging throughout the body.
Dylan, did you have something for us? You had your headset on there for a moment there, so if you had an update on anything, go right ahead.
I was just going to clear it up. Yeah, I got a call that said, I'm your neighbor down the road, and somebody's cow is loose from a property nearby.
All right. So be careful on Eagle School Road. Watch out for the cow. Our guest in this segment is Mike Pushkin. He is the delegate. He is also the State Democratic Party chairman. Michael, good morning. Thank you for holding, sir.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be on again.
Do you get many cows loose in Kanawha County on the roads?
Not that I've heard of lately, and I was on the road all night last night. We, last time I was there in person with you because we had our kitchen table tour event. The House Democrats and Senator Garcia were in Berkeley County, and that tour's still going on. And we were in Gilbert, in Mingo County last night, and I drove back all night, and I'm happy to report I didn't see any cows on the road.
Good for you, sir. It's safer if they stay inside the fence area there. What has been the feedback you've been getting on your tour around the state?
Well, it's all very positive, and we've had great crowds at each event, and each event has its own personality. Last night was probably the most enthusiastic and I'd say engaged crowd we've had anywhere yet down in Gilbert. And the topics, I mean, a lot of the topics are universal, same things people care about throughout the state. But what they really focused on down in Gilbert was potable drinking water and infrastructure. And I can tell you, as somebody who lived through, the 2014 Freedom Industry chemical spill down here in the Kanawha Valley, when you don't have water, that is the number one issue. That's it. And that's what these folks have been living with for a long time.
Hey, Mike, your phone was good when you started, but it's starting to get garbled.
Sounds like he's underwater now.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, where did I cut off there? I can back up.
We,
the top issue, the main issue that
we can hear you, but you're kind of fritzing in and out. So is there an area where you were before that was good?
I'm still in the same area.
All right. Well, right there is good.
This is freeze.
Don't blink.
Okay, I'll stay put. Anyway, I don't know if you heard that, but the people that were there were really focused. The issue they were focused on was clean drinking water because they don't have it. And I said, as one who lived through the 2014 Freedom Industry chemical spill down here in Charleston, I can tell you that is the only issue when you don't have it.
Sure.
So that's what they wanted to talk about, and this was a true. We're calling it a listening tour. Last night it was definitely more listening for us than talking because people had a lot to say, and I'm glad that we were there to hear it. Because and more politicians need to hear that. They need to get out, especially into the southern coal fields, and see the issues that these folks have been forgotten. And for a long time, they funded the rest of our state. When coal was in its heyday and we were taxing the severance tax, these counties down in southern West Virginia were paying for a lot of the infrastructure. They were paying for the rest of the state, and now they've largely been forgotten. and people ready to go down there and meet with them and hear them.
Mike, in the listening tours, you say this is sixth or seventh, so you've been. Is there commonality between the various districts or regions of the state?
I'd say the commonality is what we're not hearing about are wedge issues. We're not hearing about the culture war stuff that that the Republican supermajority seems to be fixated on. Not just here in West Virginia, but across the country. What we're hearing about is health care, education, infrastructure, those types of issues that affect our day-to-day lives.
There's been a lot of interest recently, a lot of publicity about the No Kings rally. Does that come up at all?
That hasn't come up at any of our tour stops. I mean, we're down there as state legislators to hear concerns, mainly on things that we can address on the state level. I think, the No Kings rally was in response to, executive overreach on part of the Trump administration. I mean, that was the overlying theme of No Kings. That's why it's called the No Kings rally. I will say I attended two of those events. I attended the one in Charleston that was largely underreported. I think a lot of the media got it wrong in the amount of people because they were spread out. And it was a sunny day, so people were under the trees at the Capitol. I would say about 2,000 people at the state Capitol. I went over to Huntington where they had about 800 or 900 people just at the one event there at Heritage Square, which is kind of a closed in, it's a closed in type area. And then there were college kids up and down Third Avenue. So there were a lot of people there as well. I heard Shepherdstown had well over 2,000 people. So there were events all over the country and all over the state. I believe it was the largest protest against the sitting president in American history.
Delegate, this is Mike Allers Jr. How do you convince, you talked about the forgotten West Virginians, but obviously, on the national front, one could argue that, I'm not saying the state party, but the National Democratic Party left the coal workers, in the dust, pushed towards green energy and away from that in regards to several climate initiatives. So how do you kind of reassure these people that the state party is obviously different and that you're open to hearing them so they're not forgotten?
Well, first of all, you show up, which unfortunately some of the folks that are on their ballot, the people that are being elected down that part of the state aren't showing up. I know we're hearing that a lot as well. I think that and these people are smart and they understand the world markets. It's not just that one party can come in and say we're not going to use that type of energy anymore. That's what the market is dictating. That's why you have legislators now that want to go in and subsidize certain types of power plants. That's not free market capitalism. Far from it. So I think they understand that that's what the market is dictating, and they also understand that they've been lied to for years, and they also understand the difference in supporting the people who own the coal companies, a lot of these out-of-state owners, in supporting the people, the men and women who dig the coal and who suffer from the black lung and other health issues that are involved with that type of work with somebody. So there were people there last night that spent 40 plus years underground, and they feel like they have not been treated. It wasn't one party or the other had abandoned them. It's their bosses abandoned them. Once they used them up and got all the labor out of them, they don't really care if they're suffering from any sort of a health issue or not. So I think people down there understand what the real issue is.
So what would you do, Mike, in regards to right now there's the narrative that on the national level, again, the Democratic Party is struggling to find a cohesive message, whether it's being lost in the No Kings rallies, whether it's on media or social media. There seems to be a grasp and a loss of confidence. If the Democrats, if you were, I don't know, let's say elected governor tomorrow, what would be the Democrats' vision for West Virginia, and what is the message you're trying to get out that would be different than like what they're seeing with the confusion at the national level?
I'm not sure if I understand what you're talking about. That this message was lost on the news. I just told you that was the largest day of protest against a sitting president in American history. So is the message really being lost? I'd
Well,
say
it seems
over
scattered.
Half the
one could
country
argue.
right now is really upset with the way things are going.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it's easy to get behind a three-word slogan or a four-word slogan if you don't really mean what you say or say what you mean. You know, it's easy just to go out there, and say we're going to make America great again if that doesn't really mean anything, because it's just about keeping people in power. What we're saying, and the House Democrats were getting out there, if you want to narrow it down to, three things, we're about, putting people first, about people, paychecks. We want people to be able to keep more of their money, paychecks, and privacy, which means the government can stay the hell out of their business.
Okay.
That's things that the Republican Party used to stand for. My grandfather, if he were around, he wouldn't recognize his party because they want to be in everybody's business. They're not supporting working people being able to take home more of their money, especially here in West Virginia, where because of their failure to negotiate on the tax credits for those in the affordable care marketplace. Small business owners, entrepreneurs, independent contractors in West Virginia are set to see the largest rate increases in the entire country, and nobody in our congressional delegation wants to talk about that. They're busy having birthday parties for bulldogs.
Let's stay on that, Mike, because that was one of the things when I texted you I mentioned I wanted to talk about. Is that coming up in your town hall meetings, the government shutdown and the potential increases in health insurance premiums?
It is. People are concerned about it. They also are aware that, we're state delegates and we're not in Congress. So we're unable to negotiate on this. But, yeah, it's a concern because West Virginia has the most to lose in this. We have a higher percentage of folks who receive their health care through Medicaid. And also we are set to see if the Congress fails to extend the tax credits, we're going to see the highest percentage rate increase in the entire country. West Virginia is number one in that category. So, yeah, it's come up, but they're also aware that, we're state delegates.
Sure. So you mentioned clean water and such as a big issue in many of the areas you've been to. So that's not a Republican or Democrat issue. As I see it, I think almost anybody, regardless of who you are, wants when they drink a glass of water to make sure that it's not going to kill them.
I disagree. I say if you look at the finance reports of folks who are in office and see who gets money from the people who stand to make more money by putting more discharge in the water, it does become more of a partisan. It's not a partisan issue when you're turning on the tap. All human beings need it to live. But if you look at what party has pushed back against when I first came into office, the year before that, they passed the Above Ground Storage Tank Act because it was a response to what happened down here in Kanawha County with the Freedom Industries spill. Since then, and since the Republicans have been in the majority, little by little, they have chipped away at that legislation. So the last piece of it is they want to deregulate the storage tanks that are within the zone of critical concern. That means right next to the public water intakes. So Democrats aren't voting for that. So I think protecting it and standing up against those who profit off of putting more discharge into the water has become a partisan issue, unfortunately.
Well, I appreciate you finishing that thought. I didn't get a chance to finish mine on the setup, though. So my point on that was when I'm trying to drink water, I'm trying to drink water that's clean, and I'm not thinking about the party that's in charge. I'm just thinking about whoever is in charge, making sure it stays clean. Your finish on that, I understand your angle from that. But as a Democrat in the state, hearing those concerns, what are you able to do in the legislature, whether that's communicating with other Republicans or doing something that the minority is empowered to do in Charleston? What can you do to help people have clean drinking water?
Well, we can, continue to fight back against these, this erosion of the water standards, and we can, talk to our colleagues, especially those who represent folks who don't have clean drinking water, and encourage them to get out and do what we did and listen to the people that they're there to represent. That their number one issue is the fact they can't trust the water coming out of their tap, and we've been successful in that. And it's in some regards. Like I said, the last bite of the apple on the above-ground storage tank act, they've never been able to pass, and that's because it's just so completely ridiculous to say you want to completely deregulate the storage tanks that are within the zone of critical concern, meaning right next to public water intakes. So they haven't been able to pass that, and that's because we have stood up against it and really drawn attention to it, not just on the floor of the House, but in op-eds and going on shows like this and talking about it when it comes up. So we'll continue to fight, but it would be a much easier fight if there were more of us there fighting.
But are there Republicans that you could work with in good faith? Because, again, I think what Rob was saying, take the elected officials out of it. Republican voters want clean drinking water. I also think that it's not like West Virginia has had sparkling water 30 years ago, when the Democrats were in power. This has always been kind of an issue in the state in regards to our infrastructure. So who can you work with specifically in the legislature, or who's been willing to extend a hand?
Well, I think I've seen some of the folks from that part of the state and people who are doing their job and listening to their constituents. Because you're right, it doesn't matter what your ideology is when you turn your tap on and you turn the faucet on, and everybody should be able to trust the water that comes out of their tap. Unfortunately, in many parts of the state, for a variety of reasons, that's not the case. Like you said, we've always had water issues here in West Virginia. We also have in West Virginia what people in many parts of the world would love to have. I mean, we have the birthplace of rivers here in West Virginia. A lot of the water that comes to this entire part of the country comes from West Virginia, and we haven't really valued that like we should.
Bill?
Mike, let me look forward as opposed to backward. About 2.5 months from now, we'll have a new session. Do you have a sense at all what are going to be the hot button issues from both sides of the party and also from the governor? Do you anticipate CON will be raised again as an issue, vaccination raised again as an issue, or what do you see as the hot button issues?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's what the governor, his top priority is repealing the need for certificate of need, probably repealing the requirement for certificate of need. And I'm sure he's been working the folks on his side of the aisle, and he's been able to make a couple of appointments since then. And who knows what types of leverage he's used, whether it's using the LEDA grant money or whatever it is. I think he has been dead set on that. And also, I mean, he's in court. He's supporting lawsuits against the state over childhood immunizations. So I don't think that's going away. Even though we've seen polling from the Chamber of Commerce that shows the vast majority of West Virginians support our current childhood immunization laws that have been working for years. And you're not hearing about those same type of measles outbreaks that you're seeing in other. What was it, just in South Carolina?
Yes.
Hundreds of students were just quarantined because of measles. We don't want that here. So our laws have been working. I'm not sure why the governor seems so just fixated on weakening childhood immunization laws.
Mike,
I don't get it. But I would hope that we could work together on issues that actually benefit the people of West Virginia, but that doesn't seem to be the case, especially in an election year.
Yeah, it seems to me that a lot of this, especially on the right, came from really the disillusionment with COVID and potential national COVID overreach. Do you concede that is part of the problem, that it was an overreaction to maybe some, measures that at the time we all thought were normal, but it, weren't the best? Do you concede that the Democrats could have done better in that space? And how do you regain those people's trust from that edge?
Democrats could have done better. Trump was the president when a lot of those protocols were put in place. Governor Justice was the governor. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Democrats doing it. I don't know what party Dr. Fauci is in, but yeah, I will concede that it is a pushback. This anti-science type attitude is a result of people no longer trusting the science. It is one of the byproducts of COVID. But I think people were just willing to try anything because they wanted to, slow down a pandemic that was likely to take a lot more lives had that vaccine not been produced so rapidly. And that was done under Trump.
Yeah,
and he should be proud of that. And people that support Trump should be proud of that. The Project Warp Speed, that happened under Trump. All those protocols that were put in place to try to slow the spread, that was done under Trump. That wasn't done under Jim Justice, who said, follow the effing guidelines. It wasn't a Democrat thing.
And Trump just got his COVID shot, as I understand it, too.
His booster.
Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you most Republicans have their children immunized before they go to school.
Let's go looking forward again to the session again, Mike. We talked about the governor and his push, and I think you're exactly on target. That you'll see this from the governor. What do you hear from your colleagues across the aisle, from the Republicans, and also your colleagues on your side of the aisle, of what's going to be their major issues?
Well, they've been all over the place, really. With the usually you can tell by what they're focused on during interims. As to what their big issue, and unfortunately, in election years, it seems to be more wedge issues and things that are meant to, what I feel, distract the constituents into voting for issues that don't normally affect their day-to-day lives. I think that everything should be focused on what can we do to bring more people to West Virginia. I know that that's not the issue in the part of the state where you live. Plenty of people are coming to the Eastern Panhandle, but in the rest of the state, our main issue is population loss. You talk about water infrastructure. A big part of that has to do with population loss. If you're living in a county that continues to lose population, well, then it's no longer profitable for the utilities to run water lines and to fix those water lines going into the counties where they have less and less customers. So it all boils down to population. Everything we should do should be about how do we bring people to this state, how do we make young people want to stay in this state. Unfortunately, they tend to do the exact opposite in the legislature.
1 minute.
Mike, you used a term a while ago, war on science. I have the sense there's not a lot of sympathy with the legislators for higher education, which I think is synonymous with science. Am I wrong with that assumption?
Well, they continue to cut it. I mean, when you're talking about passing flat budget year after year and not keeping up with any kind of rise in cost of living or rates of inflation or anything, then you have to make cuts somewhere. And there's only a couple places where you can really make significant cuts, and that's to human services and education, and and they're getting cut, and you're seeing more and more money pulled out of the public school system through the Hope Voucher program, and then cuts to higher education as well. And you're seeing the result of that are less courses of study at WVU, which will cause less kids to go there.
Mike, I got to jump in. I'm out of time. Thank you for yours, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks. I'll come back anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.